Hello, I'm Nathan, and I'm delighted to have been invited to offer this video as a kind of introduction to Festival Day. Despite being a postulant, despite being here for all of 5 minutes in the religious life, nevertheless, I have a few thoughts that I hope will whet the appetite. This year, the Festival Day is focusing on the environment and our response to it. And I suppose the question that's posed is that the environment is a matter of great concern. We are in crisis and it needs responses. It needs scientific responses. It needs ethical and political and social and individual responses. At the moment, we are called to action, to change and to avert disaster. So what to this does the monastic life and the contemplative life, with its emphasis on stillness, on seeing and hearing rather than acting? What can that offer to this critical moment? Of course, it is the case, I think, for most of us as Christians, we think the environment is something important, something we should attend to, but it's largely an ethical rather than spiritual concern. We struggle to find that link between what really energizes us, our relationship with the living God, and the natural world around us. It's something good we ought to do because we know God, not a way of meeting God himself. Yet, for ancient spiritual writers, for the ancient monks and down the centuries, this was not how they saw the world at all. Rather, it was completely alive and a way of encountering Christ. Evagrius writes that one of the sages of that time came to Antony the Just, that is, St. Anthony of the Desert, and said, "Father, how can you endure being deprived the comfort of books?" And he said, "My book, philosopher, is the nature of beings, and it is there when I want to read the words of God." The ancient world, understanding the word, Christ, was to be done through reading not one book, but two. First, the book of Scriptures, and second, the book of nature. And just as the book of Scripture was read through the slow and deliberate practice of Lectio Divina, divine reading, so creation could be read through the practice of Theoria Physicae, or natural contemplation. St. Maximus the Confessor wrote that the natural law is to the highest possible degree evenly directed by reason through the marvellous physical phenomena that we see, which are naturally interconnected, so that the harmonious web of the universe is contained within it, like the various elements of a book. Indeed, the failure to see this was a failure of our own Christian vocation. Evagrius again wrote that demonic thoughts blind the left eye of the soul, which perceives the contemplation of beings. Of course, for us, we don't often see or relate to the natural world in this way. We in the West struggle. Broadly, our relation to creation is either to see it as somehow serving our consumer needs, or else it's just a kind of sentimental response. For most of us in the urban world, I'm sure, the main way we meet animals, for instance, is either as our beloved pets, as the pests that we kill, or else they're the things on our plates. And yes, that kind of way of looking at the world that asks, what can I get out of this? It's too hot for me, it's too cold for me, this is going to damage my garden. What things are on my shopping list? We need to cut down this forest in order to make books and furniture. Let's pull up these flowers to decorate the table. This way of seeing the world is a sinful state in light of natural contemplation. Theoria Physicae, by contrast, is about a way of seeing that isn't passionately attached to what can I get out of it, this desire to control, to manipulate, even to destroy in order to satisfy our ends, but rather seeing things in the way that God sees them, in his love that begrudges life to nobody and no thing. He lets everything be, and everything shares his life and love. Of course, this is all well and good, but if we've lost this vision, how do we recover it? How do we go from seeing weeds growing up on the driveway and thinking how wonderful God truly is, rather than where's the weed killer? Well, I think the clue does actually come from that practice of Lectio Divina, or a clue at least. Of course, Lectio is a way of reading in the manner of Mary, the Mother of God, one who treasures things and ponders them in the heart. At the heart of Lectio is the sense that there is a fuller meaning than just the words and symbols scratched onto a page. That the same spirit that inspired the authors inspires the reader, so that the word speaks a personal message to the reader that is relevant to their situation and to their age. This fuller sense we come to by reading slowly, attentively, with our whole heart, not looking to gain knowledge or new ideas, but to act in a loving, receptive way, with God speaking to us and we committing to listening without our agendas clogging it up. Importantly, in this reading, as in with all the best books, we don't just read the text. Rather, we're gripped by it. We enter the world that the text presents. Lectio is about not just the words, but this whole world. We meet the prophets and the patriarchs and the disciples. We travel ourselves with Jesus, growing into a number of ideas and perspectives which are very alien to begin with. And by this walking about in the world, so we are transformed. In the same way, by walking about in our world, we are transformed. St. Augustine writes, the universe was written by God as a book, and Scripture was made by God as a universe. If we can encounter God on the leaf of a page, then why not an actual leaf? Even our reading of Scripture can point us towards this reality. For the world it describes is not some fantasy world, it's our world. The world where we're told that God is the Lord of heaven and earth, and in the Word all things hold together. We're told that creation groans to be free from the bondage of decay, that the heavens tell the glory of God, that day to day pours forth speech and night declares knowledge, even though there is no voice heard. We're told of roaring seas and singing hills, trees that clap their hands, the winds as God's messengers and the flames of fire his servants. Of a God who promises a redemption not just for us, but that when Christ comes, he will finally be all in all. That wisdom delights in all its works. If we are close and attentive readers of Scripture, then we should become close and attentive readers of the whole universe. There are some differences, of course. Lectio can be like the microscopic view. A single word can draw on all these associations with other parts of Scripture, with memory, with experiences, with other teachings of the Church or the liturgy. In nature, of course, perhaps it's the kaleidoscopic view. The sounds, the smells, the things we can touch, seeing how it all links together. Even just being surprised that it is there at all. How everything moves and reaches a kind of harmony and equilibrium when we're not busy destroying and damaging it. We can move in the same way from Lectio, from that reading to that meditating on it. Perhaps here we have some way of reintegrating science. The more we can see and understand even what's going on at the cellular level or at the level of the planets and the movement of the stars, the more our wonder can increase, just as reading a commentary can increase the depth of our understanding of a particular passage of Scripture. But nevertheless, it moves us to prayer, to praise, to wonder. And then finally, in that moment, the one beyond ideas and beyond sensible things, the one who transcends all this, reaches down and grips us, surrounds us with his love. The little symbolic scratchings on a page can do this, and each created thing acts as a symbol and a mirror that can also do this. It is, in both cases, an encounter with the living Word through whom all things are made. We have angelic thoughts, Evagrius writes, when we can see things under the deep eye of natural contemplation that links them back to God and praise and letting be in love. And I think from this vision comes the impetus to protect, to see the integrity of nature, just as we wouldn't want to take even a jot or a tittle away from the fullness of Scripture. The creative God said, "Let there be." And if we open our eyes, we can respond, "Thy will be done." And within ourselves begin to reflect on all the glories that we see around us, and to offer up that song of praise. It says, "Blessed be God," to lead the entire cosmic liturgy of worship that is returning back to that source of all life and all being, and the purpose of all living things. As I say, these are not new ideas, and hopefully on the day, on Festival Day, we'll get to explore them a little further and have a go, and come to this place where there is a great profusion of life. And I very much look forward to meeting you then and seeing you then, and exploring these ideas further and learning on this journey as we come to celebrate God in his creation.